The harsh twin suns of Kepler, X9 beat down mercilessly as Commander James Harrison watched the Federation transport disappear into the crystalline sky. His trial had lasted less than an hour, a mockery of justice that ended with his exile to this desolate world. The real crime, he knew, was uncovering evidence of weapons trafficking between high-ranking Federation officials and the notorious Thorian Empire. A bitter smile crossed his weathered face as he hefted the standard-issue survival pack they'd generously provided. 20 years of decorated service in the Federation Space Corps, reduced to this, abandoned on a desert planet with enough supplies to last maybe a week. They expected him to die here, another inconvenient truth buried beneath alien sands. The landscape before him stretched endlessly in every direction, rolling dunes of deep crimson sand interspersed with jutting formations of black glass-like stone. The planet's atmosphere was breathable but thin, and already he could feel the strain in his lungs as he trudged forward, searching for any sign of shelter from the relentless heat. Hours passed like molten metal, slow and burning. James's training kicked in as he rationed his water, used his jacket as a makeshift hood, and kept his eyes on the horizon. The Federation's databases had listed Kepler, X9 as uninhabited, but his years of experience had taught him that uninhabited often meant unexplored or ignored. As the first sun began to set, he noticed something odd about one of the larger glass stone formations in the distance. The angles were too perfect, too deliberate. Either this was the universe's most improbable natural formation, or something, had shaped it. With renewed purpose, he adjusted his course. The second sun was touching the horizon when he reached the formation. Up close, his suspicions were confirmed. What appeared natural from a distance revealed itself to be an ancient structure, its surface weathered by countless centuries of sandstorms. Geometric patterns were etched into the black material, and as the last rays of sunlight struck them, they seemed to pulse with a faint, purple luminescence. James ran his hand along the symbols, feeling a slight vibration beneath his fingers. His heart raced with the implications. This wasn't just a structure, it was technology, ancient, alien, but definitely artificial. The Federation's surveys hadn't just missed signs of life, they'd missed evidence of an advanced civilization. A sudden wind whipped up around him, bringing with it the first real chill he'd felt since landing. The temperature would plummet soon, desert worlds were as merciless at night as they were during the day. He needed shelter, and this structure was his best option. After a careful examination, he found what appeared to be an entrance, sealed by millennia of accumulated sand. Hours of digging with his survival knife and bare hands finally cleared enough space for him to squeeze through. The interior was pitch black, but his pack's glow rod revealed a sight that took his breath away. The chamber was vast, its walls covered in the same geometric patterns he'd seen outside, but here they were pristine, untouched by the desert's wrath. The patterns seemed to respond to his light, rippling with that same purple energy he'd noticed earlier. As he explored deeper into the structure, James found more chambers, each filled with incomprehensible machinery and artifacts. This wasn't just a building, it was some sort of facility. But its purpose, like its builders, remained a mystery. He set up his camp in what appeared to be a central chamber, its ceiling open to the star-filled sky through a crystalline dome. That first night, as he lay watching the unfamiliar constellations whirl overhead, James heard it, a sound that couldn't have been the wind. Musical tones, almost like chimes, emanating from deep within the facility. The patterns on the walls pulsed in rhythm with the sounds, casting the chamber in waves of purple light. Then came the footsteps, too light to be human, too deliberate to be animal. James reached for his knife, knowing it would be useless against any real threat. But he was done hiding, done running. Whatever was coming, he would face it head-on. The chamber's entrance filled with a soft, golden light, and in its glow stood a figure that defied everything James thought he knew about life in the galaxy. Tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer like desert mirages and eyes that held the wisdom of centuries. She, for the figure was distinctly feminine, wore armor that appeared to be made from the same black material as the facility, adorned with the same pulsing patterns. She spoke, her voice carrying the same musical quality as the facility's tones, in a language that seemed to bypass his ears and resonate directly in his mind. Though he couldn't understand the words, their meaning was clear: "You are not the first to be abandoned here, Star Walker, but you may be the most important." James Harrison, decorated commander, exile, and now possibly the first human to make contact with this unknown civilization, stood slowly. His trial hadn't been an ending, he realized. It had been a beginning. The alien woman introduced herself as the Lyra, first sentinel of the Xylixian enclave. Her people had mastered the art of telepathic communication centuries ago, which allowed James to understand her despite their different languages. She explained that the facility he'd stumbled upon was one of many ancient waypoints scattered across the desert world. "Our ancestors did not evolve on this planet," the Lyra explained as she led James deeper into the facility, past chambers filled with technology that seemed to blur the line between science and magic. "Like you, they were cast out here, abandoned by their own kind. But they discovered something in these sands, something that changed everything." The central chamber opened into a vast underground city, carved into the bedrock beneath the desert. Crystalline spires rose like frozen waterfalls, their surfaces alive with the same pulsing patterns he'd seen above. Hundreds of Xylixians went about their daily lives, their tall, graceful forms moving with fluid precision through markets, gardens, and what appeared to be training grounds. "We call this place Sanctuary," the Lyra said, watching James's awestruck expression with amusement. "Over generations, we learned to harness the desert's energy, to tap into the ancient network that powers these facilities. We became its guardians, and in return, it protects us." James noticed that while most of the Xylixians shared the Lyra's ethereal beauty, they were far from fragile. Warriors trained in open courtyards, their movements a deadly dance of precision and power. Their weapons and armor seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, responding to their thoughts as much as their touch. "Your Federation," the Lyra continued, her tone darkening, "has been encroaching on our world for years. They sense the power here but understand nothing of its purpose or price. The weapons they trade with the Thorians. They're pale imitations of ancient technology, reversed engineered from artifacts stolen from worlds like ours." James felt a chill despite the desert heat. "That's what I discovered," he said. "Shipments of experimental weapons, but I never knew their origin. They framed me for treason when I started asking questions." The Lyra led him to a chamber that hummed with energy. At its center stood a holographic display of the galaxy, but unlike any star map he'd seen before. Certain systems pulsed with the same purple energy that seemed to permeate everything in the city. "These are the ancient waypoints," she explained. "A network of facilities built by a civilization that vanished eons ago. They're all connected, all still functioning, and all holding secrets that could either elevate or destroy countless worlds." She turned to face him, her eyes intense. "The Federation and the Thorians want to use this power to wage war. We protect it until those who are worthy can return to claim it." Over the next few days, James immersed himself in Xylixian culture. He learned that their society was led by a council of sentinels, with the Lyra as their military commander. Their technology was a seamless blend of the ancients' gifts and their own innovations, allowing them to survive and thrive in one of the harshest environments imaginable. But it was their philosophy that truly captured his attention. The Xylixians believed in balance above all else, between progress and preservation, between strength and wisdom, between the individual and the community. They had transformed exile into excellence, abandonment into achievement. The Lyra proved to be both a patient teacher and a fascinating companion. She taught him their methods of combat, how to move silently across the sands, and the basics of interfacing with ancient technology. In return, he shared everything he knew about the Federation's operations, their strengths, and their vulnerabilities. During one of their training sessions, as the twin suns set and painted the desert in shades of gold and crimson, the Lyra finally asked the question that had been brewing since his arrival. "The Federation believes you dead, James Harrison. You could stay here, become one of us, help us protect what must be protected. Or you could leave, try to clear your name, risk everything for a society that cast you out. What will you choose? Before he could answer, alarms echoed through the city. A sentinel rushed into the training ground, her armor pulsing with urgent patterns. First Sentinel. Federation ships have entered the system. A full battle fleet. James and the Lyra shared a look of understanding. The choice had been made for him. The Federation hadn't sent him here to die, they'd sent him here to lead them straight to the Xylixians' doorstep. They'd been tracking him the entire time. Prepare the defenses, the Lyra commanded, her armor flowing into its full combat configuration. She turned to James, extending her hand. In it was a crystal that pulsed with familiar purple energy. If you stand with us, take it. If you accept it, there's no going back. You'll be Xylixian, bound to our laws, our struggles, our future. James looked at the crystal, then at the woman who had shown him that exile didn't mean the end. Above, the first Federation ships would be entering the atmosphere. Everything he'd ever known, ever been, hung in the balance. He took the crystal. It pulsed once, brightly, and James Harrison felt the power of an ancient civilization flow through his veins. The desert had claimed him, and he had chosen to embrace it. The crystal's power coursed through James's body like liquid starlight, transforming him at the cellular level. His consciousness expanded, connecting to the vast network that pulsed beneath the desert's surface. Through this new awareness, he could sense the Federation ships descending through the atmosphere, 12 cruisers and their fighter escorts, a force meant for subjugation rather than exploration. The transformation is permanent, the Lyra explained as she led him quickly through corridors that seemed to shift and reorganize themselves. The crystal's energy will enhance your natural abilities and connect you to our collective consciousness, but it takes time to master. Time we don't have. They entered a chamber unlike any James had seen before. A massive crystalline sphere dominated the center, its surface covered in swirling patterns that matched the rhythm of his newly enhanced heartbeat. Around it, dozens of Xylixian warriors stood at control panels that seemed to grow from the floor itself. This is the heart of Sanctuary, the Lyra said, placing her hand on the sphere. It's one of the few remaining ancient defense systems still fully operational. With it, we can protect our home, but only if we work in perfect synchronization. She turned to him, her eyes glowing with internal light. That's why we needed you, James. Your military experience, combined with our technology, might give us a chance. Through their shared mental connection, James suddenly understood. The Xylixians were powerful, but their isolation had left them without recent combat experience against modern military forces. His knowledge of Federation tactics and weaknesses could turn the tide. The first explosions rocked the surface above as Federation ships began their bombardment. Through the ancient network, James could feel the desert itself responding, protective shields of pure energy rising from the dunes to absorb the attacks. But they wouldn't hold forever. Show me, he said, placing his hand on the sphere beside the Lyra's. The connection was immediate and overwhelming. He saw the entire battlefield at once, every ship, every weapon, every warrior preparing for combat. More importantly, he saw the true extent of Xylixian capabilities that had been hidden even from him until now. The ancient defense system wasn't just a shield, it was a reality-altering weapon platform. The entire desert was one vast mechanism, capable of manipulating matter and energy on a quantum level. The Xylixians hadn't just survived here, they had become custodians of perhaps the most powerful technology in the galaxy. Now you understand why we can't let them take this place, the Lyra's voice echoed in his mind. The Federation, the Thorians, they would use this power to enslave worlds, to reshape reality according to their desires. The ancients built this network to elevate all sentient life, not to dominate it. James began feeding tactical data into the system, combining his combat expertise with Xylixian technology. The desert responded instantly. Massive tentacles of crystallized sand erupted from the dunes, wrapping around Federation ships and crushing their engines. Quantum distortion fields appeared in the path of plasma torpedoes, redirecting them back at their sources. But the Federation forces adapted quickly. They switched to ground assault tactics, dropping troops and heavy equipment onto the surface. Through the network, James could sense their target. They were trying to reach the facility's entrance, to capture the heart of Sanctuary. "There's something else," the Lyra said, her mental voice tight with concern. "Something we've kept hidden even from our own people. The heart isn't just a weapon, it's a key. The ancients left a message, a warning about a threat greater than anything we've faced. If the Federation claims this technology, they'll trigger events they can't possibly understand." As if in response to her words, the crystalline sphere began to pulse with new patterns, displaying symbols James somehow knew were ancient script. The message was clear, and terrifying: the convergence approaches. The network must remain intact. Unity is survival. Through their connected consciousness, James shared a moment of perfect understanding with the Lyra. The Federation's attack wasn't just about claiming advanced technology, they were unknowingly risking the fate of all life in the galaxy. The ancients had built their network of facilities as a defense against something that was still coming, something that required all sentient species to stand together. "We have to show them," James said, both aloud and mentally. "Make them understand what's really at stake." He could feel Thalira's agreement, but also her sadness. They both knew that some secrets, once revealed, changed everything forever. Above them, the battle raged on. Federation troops were establishing beachheads across the desert, while Xylixian warriors emerged from hidden sanctuaries to engage them. The fate of not just one world, but potentially all worlds, hung in the balance. And at the heart of it all stood a human exile and a Xylixian sentinel, their hands joined on an ancient artifact, preparing to reveal a truth that would either unite their peoples or destroy them all. The Federation's assault intensified as James and the Lyra initiated the heart of Sanctuary's revelation protocol. The ancient machine hummed with power, projecting vast holograms into the sky above the battlefield. Combat on both sides slowed as warriors and soldiers alike witnessed the truth of humanity's place in the galaxy. The images showed a devastating future, a force of pure entropy, dubbed the Void by the ancients, consuming entire galaxies. This cosmic horror had already devoured countless civilizations, and according to the ancients' calculations, it would reach their galaxy within a generation. The network of facilities across desert worlds wasn't just for defense or technological advancement, it was part of a galaxy-wide shield, designed to protect all life from annihilation. "This is Command Carrier Prometheus," a voice crackled through the communication systems. "All units hold position. I repeat, hold position." James recognized the voice, Admiral Roland Pierce, his former mentor and one of the few Federation leaders he'd once trusted. Through the crystalline sphere's interface, James projected his voice across the battlefield. "Admiral Pierce, the Federation's intelligence about this planet was wrong. The weapons you've been developing, the technology you've been chasing, it's all part of something much bigger. Something that affects every living being in the galaxy." The silence that followed was deafening. Federation troops and Xylixian warriors stood frozen in their positions, all eyes turned to the apocalyptic visions still playing out above them. The heart of Sanctuary continued its revelation, showing how the ancients had sacrificed their entire civilization to create the defensive network, entrusting it to carefully chosen species who would continue their work. "The Xylixians aren't our enemies," James continued. "They're the guardians of our last hope for survival. Every facility the Federation has raided, every artifact you've weaponized, has weakened our only defense against the coming darkness." The Lyra stepped forward, her voice joining his in the broadcast. "We offer peace, Admiral Pierce. More than that, we offer partnership. The ancients chose humans as potential guardians too, but the Federation's aggression has prevented us from revealing ourselves until now." The tension in the air was palpable as everyone awaited the Admiral's response. Finally, his voice returned, heavy with the weight of understanding. "Commander Harrison, I always knew your exile was a mistake. But this is beyond anything we imagined. There was a pause. I'm coming down to the surface. Just me. We need to talk. As the Admiral's shuttle descended, James and the Lyra prepared for the most crucial diplomatic meeting in human history. The Heart of Sanctuary had revealed one final secret: the crystals that powered their technology, that had transformed James, weren't just power sources. They were keys to awakening dormant potential in compatible species, potential the ancients had engineered into them eons ago. Admiral Pierce emerged from his shuttle alone, his weathered face pale from witnessing the visions above. I've served the Federation for 40 years, he said, approaching James and the Lyra. I thought I understood our place in the universe. I was wrong. But before they could respond, alarms blared through the ancient facility. The Heart of Sanctuary's displays shifted, showing a massive fleet emerging from hyperspace, Thorian warships, hundreds of them, led by the very Federation officials who had exiled James. They followed us, Pierce growled, his fists clenched. The corrupt council members. They must have realized we'd discovered the truth. He turned to James and the Lyra. Whatever you need, my ships, my troops, they're yours. We can't let them destroy everything. The Thorian fleet opened fire without warning, their weapons enhanced by stolen ancient technology. The desert's shields flared under the assault, and James could feel the strain on the Heart of Sanctuary through his crystalline connection. They had minutes, at most, before the defenses failed. There is a way, the Lyra said, her eyes meeting James's. The heart can initiate a full awakening, activate the dormant potential in all compatible humans at once. But the power requirement. She didn't need to finish. James understood through their link. Someone would have to sacrifice themselves to power the transformation. I'll do it, Pierce stepped forward, surprising them both. I led the Federation's expansion into these worlds. Let me make it right. Before anyone could stop him, the Admiral pressed his hand against the crystalline sphere. The ancient machinery recognized his intent, his worthiness, and began to glow. James wanted to stop him, to find another way, but there wasn't time. The Thorian fleet was launching ground forces, hoping to capture the facility. They had to act now. As Pierce's consciousness merged with the Heart of Sanctuary, as his physical form dissolved into pure energy, James and the Lyra began the awakening sequence. Above them, across the battlefield, every human soldier felt the change begin. The Admiral's sacrifice would give humanity its chance to stand with the Xylixians as true guardians of the ancient legacy. The final battle for not just Kepler, X9, but for the galaxy's future, was about to begin. Admiral Pierce's sacrifice rippled through the desert battlefield like a wave of pure starlight. Every compatible human soldier felt the awakening, their consciousness expanding, bodies evolving, ancient potential finally unlocked. The transformation that had taken James days to adjust to was happening to hundreds simultaneously, guided by Pierce's essence through the Heart of Sanctuary. The Thorian fleet's first wave of ground forces met an unprecedented resistance. Federation troops, now enhanced by ancient gifts, fought alongside Xylixian warriors with perfect synchronization. Their shared consciousness through the crystal network allowed for combat strategies that defied conventional warfare. James and the Lyra coordinated the defense from the heart chamber, their minds linked not only with each other but with every defender. Through the crystalline sphere, they watched as humans and Xylixians together wielded powers that hadn't been seen since the ancients walked the galaxy. The corrupt council members are on the lead Thorian vessel, James sensed through the network. They're desperate. They know if word of this reaches the Federation worlds, their power is finished. The Lyra's consciousness merged more deeply with his. They don't understand what they've done. The weapons they created from stolen artifacts, they're not just destroying our defenses. They're creating ripples in spacetime. The void will sense them. As if confirming her words, the Heart of Sanctuary pulsed with urgent warnings. The ancient displays showed distortions forming at the edge of the system, tears in reality caused by the Thorians' weaponized ancient technology. Through these rifts, they could all sense it, the first tendrils of the void, reaching into their galaxy centuries ahead of schedule. Everyone, fall back to the inner sanctum. James broadcasted through the network. The void is here. We need to initiate the Ancients' contingency plan. Now. The defenders retreated in perfect order, drawing the Thorian forces deeper into the facility. What their enemies saw as a victory was actually part of a strategy programmed into the ancient architecture itself. As the last warrior passed through the inner sanctum's gates, the true purpose of the Heart of Sanctuary was revealed. The entire facility began to transform. Walls shifted, corridors realigned, and the crystalline sphere rose through opening levels until it reached the surface. The desert itself came alive, ancient machines awakening from millennia of dormancy. The facility wasn't just a defender's stronghold, it was the control center for a planetary weapon. The ancients built this place to seal rifts in spacetime, the Lyra explained through the network. But it requires the combined power of two guardian species to activate. We were never meant to face the void alone. James understood. This was why the ancients had chosen both humans and Xylixians as potential guardians. This was why their species were compatible with the crystals. They were designed to work together, their combined potential greater than the sum of their parts. Through their shared connection to the heart, James and the Lyra began the sealing ritual. Every defender, human and Xylixian alike, contributed their energy. The corrupt council members, realizing too late the forces they'd unleashed, attempted to flee. But there was nowhere to run. The Heart of Sanctuary unleashed its power in a blinding wave of purple energy. The desert rose up like a living thing, ancient machines transforming sand into crystalline lattices that reached into space. The Thorian fleet found itself trapped in a web of pure energy, their stolen ancient weapons overwhelmed and neutralized. The rifts in spacetime began to close, the void's tendrils forced back by the combined might of two guardian species working as one. The corrupt council members' ships, still trying to escape, were caught in the sealing energy. Their weapons overloaded, creating a chain reaction that erased them from existence, a fitting end for those who had tried to steal power they couldn't understand. As the light faded and the desert settled, a new reality dawned. The Federation soldiers who had come as invaders now stood as guardians. The Xylixians who had hidden for generations now had allies in their ancient mission. And through it all, the Heart of Sanctuary pulsed with the combined strength of both species, stronger than ever before. Pierce's sacrifice had not only awakened humanity's potential, it had forged an unbreakable bond between two civilizations. In the crystalline sphere's chamber, James and the Lyra stood hand in hand, their consciousnesses still linked, both forever changed by their shared journey. The real work begins now, the Lyra said, both aloud and mentally. We have to prepare the galaxy for what's coming. Unite more species. Awaken more guardians. James nodded, feeling the truth of it in his transformed being. His exile had led him not just to redemption, but to humanity's true purpose. The desert world that was meant to be his prison had become the birthplace of a new era. Above them, the twin suns of Kepler, X9 rose over a transformed landscape. Crystal spires reached toward the sky, pulsing with purple energy, no longer just a defense facility, but a beacon of unity. The first of many, they both knew, in the great work that lay ahead. For in the end, the greatest secret of the ancients hadn't been their technology or their power. It had been their understanding that survival required something stronger than weapons or walls. It required different species coming together, turning exile into enlightenment, turning endings into beginnings. The dawn of unity had arrived, and with it, hope for all that lay ahead.